between the gas and people not getting stuff planted, that's the big stuff. In
That's
our world
important
anyways.
news, not people not getting stuff planted. We are live. So I'm going to do this intro that I wrote up. It's the same every week. Welcome to the Farm Hop Life Men's Forum, number 7. I am Matt of A Farm Hop Life, and tonight, so far, I'm joined by Josiah of Over the Moon Farm. Or is it Farms, plural?
Just farm.
Just Farm. He's in Missouri. Wow, news. Here's the news, is that you were just telling me about gas prices, $8 a gallon in LA.
That's what I saw. I'm not sure if that's that high one or not, but yeah, that's what I was saying.
we got Caleb joining us. Hey Caleb, how's it going?
Hey man, what's going on? I got a few minutes.
Oh my gosh, I totally just doxed you. I'm sorry.
Fuck it. Who gives a shit?
So we were gonna briefly touch on gas really quick. So I saw a headline that they were reprogramming pumps to read gas for double-digit numbers, and I didn't read anything further than I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Not like really, really caring. And I told my wife that, and she's like, yeah, that's for like, race fuel that gas stations sell because it's way more profitable. So it makes sense that they would just sell race fuel. And so when race fuel is like $15 a gallon or whatever, they need to read double digits, obviously. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So it's just clickbait trash, what I saw.
I have seen they reprogrammed the stations near me for over 100 on a transaction. I don't know what it actually gets up to, but
right.
So
yeah,
but that is new this time around. It used to just cap at 100, but now you can go over 100. So
interesting. Now you can go over 100. That's weird. So you guys get stuff planted lately, this weekend?
Yeah, we got I patched in some more corn, some of the stuff that didn't pop up. And then we got some melons and some squash in. So staying busy that way.
Nice.
What about you, Guy, Alaska?
Just taters.
Just taters. Is that the only thing that grows?
Well, they do grow well. They do grow well up here. That's one of the historical foods that people grow. But no, it's just to plant that, I had to put a bunch of slab wood down on top of the muskeg, and then put a bunch of sawdust on that, and then put the potatoes down, and then put compost over top of that. So it's just a lot of work just for that. But we would like to get some squash in. We'll see. I think squash, zucchini, those kinds of things grow pretty well. But we haven't had rain for like a week and a half too. This is one of the driest months of the year. April and May are the driest. So I actually got to go water the taters.
That's weird. That's kind of weird. It's like
that is weird.
Yeah,
we're in the rainy season for us here in Montana now, and I'm actually surprised that it's like still rainy here, because normally it's just like dry on top of dry, and it just keeps raining, which whatever we'll take.
Right.
So
yeah, we had I had to burn some brush the other day, and you got to keep a bucket and a chainsaw with you, because the hemlocks up above, they grow like these lumpy growths on the branches that get full of moss and stuff, and that's so dry. I actually had one catch fire, and so you got to cut the tree down when you're burning before it can spread to something else. So just 2 or 3 days of no rain here, and it dries right out, because that sphagnum moss holds the water, but then it evaporates the water really quickly too.
That's kind of wild, man. Wild Alaska.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So let's jump into, if you guys don't have any other further like news stuff, like planting, that's important. let's get into ethics, principles, and whatever else I wrote. Ethics, principles, and morals of raising meat. And that's not just raising meat either. I even included hunting and fishing included in that. So, do you guys? I mean, you guys have processed animals before, obviously, right? What have you processed? Let's start with livestock.
Goats.
I'll
Go
send
ahead.
it to you. Just you go
Okay.
ahead. You've been around.
Goats, chickens, pigs. I've helped with a cow.
That seems like a lot of work.
It was. Those are the livestock that I've done, and then basically everything wild in Missouri that's killable and processable. I've done so.
Wild and killable in Missouri. You ever eaten homeless man? What about you, Guy?
Oh yeah, just about. Well, when I was in Michigan, whatever, it was wild and killable there too. I mean, I didn't need I mean, I've skinned almost everything, but I haven't eaten almost everything. But yeah, eating woodchuck, porcupine, all that. Those are all, I think, overlooked meats that are really fine meats, to be honest. Yeah, goats, sheep, cow once, that sort of thing. Deer, plenty of deer.
Yeah, I'm not above eating a porcupine or a woodchuck.
I'll tell you what, they're very good. Woodchuck good as slow cooked. Porcupine's good in a stew.
Good to know. Can you use the quills on a porcupine for like skewers and?
No.
Oh.
No, I mean you can save them for. I mean, people do quill work, which is similar to bead work. You know, they'll dye the quills and weave little baskets, things like that.
I didn't know that. Now I'll have to look that up. Later.
Yeah, it's pretty the good way. We're big on that. Still are.
I don't have as much processing experience as you guys. Just like, you know, I've been hunting since like 12 or 13. So like help other people process their stuff. Did 25 meat birds last year. But that's kind of like the extent of like I've never. Oh, I did turkey once. A lot more work than a chicken just because of the size, but it's easier to get your hand in there to clean them out. But have yet to. I think I'm gonna try really hard to get an elk this year. So that's kind of like one of my big goals is my buddy's got like 200 head of elk herd that passes through his property quite frequently. Like you could almost predict it. And so he's like, they keep eating all my hay. They ate like $4,000 or $5,000 worth of his hay last year. And so he's like, we need to more intensively manage this herd because you can't be having that. Do you guys, when you do take, let's start with hunting. Obviously one kill shot would be better, but why what do you feel about that? Like why do you feel like it's best to only take one shot?
I mean, I think that's kind of a new idea, honestly. When you read the stories of when you read the stories of some of the old time hunters, they thought nothing of just getting a hit on one so that they could track it down. Like a hit was better. I mean, they didn't have the same ethics that we do.
That's interesting. Okay.
Even when sport hunting, kind of came back, not that long ago in America, it wasn't unheard of for people to just get a hit so they get another hit, kind of a thing. So it's kind of new, honestly, to want that one shot. I don't know. Like for me, I don't like to see the suffering.
Same.
But at the same time, when you see a wild animal get torn apart, see a deer get torn apart, alive or whatever, going out and finding a chicken that's been ripped apart and is getting eaten alive. Like that stuff happens in the wild. I'm not saying that we shouldn't try and rise above that, but at the same time, like I go for a one-shot kill partially because I'm on a small piece of private and I don't want the animal to run. More than I guess from an ethics standpoint, wild animals die horrible deaths. If I can do better than that, then great. But if not, I'll do my best. But I don't know necessarily that there's anything ethically against taking 2 shots or 3 or 5. I mean, it makes you look like a bad hunter these days. But other than that, I don't know that there's ethically anything wrong with it.
Yeah, I suppose if you like,
Yeah,
if I guess the unethical thing would be if you didn't go retrieve it and like used the animal for meat, right? Instead of just shooting it and then just leaving it to die like a horrible death and then rotting or it getting like it's slow, like bleeding out slowly and getting eaten by coyotes and stuff. Like you injured that animal, like you caused that. Like why would? Yeah, I can see the line there.
yeah. I think too. As far as ethics go, when it comes to killing an animal, I think there really ought to be a different standard between livestock and wild animals. And the reason is because livestock are under your care. If I keep them in a pen, if I don't water them, they die. If I don't feed them, they die. If I don't, protect them from predators, excluding myself, they die. And if you look in the wild, like Josiah was talking about, you got the hunters in the past who, if they can get the shot that'll wound the animal and allow them to track it, then that's still food. And I think a lot of people don't hunt for subsistence anymore, and so that kind of plays into the whole ethics thing. But they really just want to look like a cool guy who can make a one-shot kill. But if you look at animals, they're not. You talked about making sure that you track down your kill. But if you look at animals, they're not considering ethics when they go out to kill. So if I go out to kill a deer and I fire one shot and let's say I hit the deer, I hit it in a non-vital area. I know that I shot it in the flank, and there's a good chance that it's going to get far, far, far away, maybe up a mountain and crawl down into a hole where I'll never find it. Well, I've wasted a bullet and I've wasted a shot. I've also wasted all my time hiking up that mountain to find a deer. So it behooves me to make sure that I can make a shot because I'm just trying to live. And animals are the same way. When they go out hunting, they have limited energy to expend. You look at lions, they spend most of their days sleeping. Even my dogs outside spend all day and all night sleeping. They barely get up if there's a bear in the yard. If he comes close, that's when they're willing to expend the energy to run him off, because their resources are finite, just like ours are. And so if most people don't like to bring in utilitarianism into ethics, and I of all people, I think don't either. But when you want to bring it down to its most basic level of survival, there is some utility involved there. But then when you consider livestock, that's a whole different story, because no longer am I the hunter. I'm now the caretaker. And so it's just like the difference between a soldier and a nurse, right? On the battlefield, they both have different functions and they're both held to different ethical standards, although the soldier's held to similar standards as the nurse, if his enemy surrenders. But yeah, I mean, I guess I go on about that, but that's enough.
No, it's a good point though. There is a big difference. I don't mess around when it comes to animals under my care. It's my responsibility to get them dead as quickly and as calmly and peacefully. And part of that is because I absolutely can Like from even again from a utility or a practical perspective, the meat's better if you make it quick. You make
Mm-hmm.
it stress free. You get all the blood out. Those are things that you can't necessarily do when you're hunting. If I hit a deer, there's not bleeding out if I hit that deer with the rifle. She's going down right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's that. Um, it's a funny story, but when I was early 20s, me and some friends went out into the woods. It was January, with no food. The goal was to go out there and get some small game and cook it. And we hadn't seen anything all day. And I saw this squirrel, and he was booking it. And I don't usually take running shots. I've got a 22. But man, I shot that squirrel. I shot at that squirrel, and then the squirrel 4 or 5 times, which is a lot for me. And I ended up. I think I hit 3 of those times, but I finally killed it, and I had something to eat. My friends did not, and it's a silly story because ultimately I wasn't going to starve to death.
You hit a squirrel 3 times with the 22?
Yeah, well, I was running. I was kind of desperate.
Holy smokes!
That's a tough squirrel too. And it's a silly story because I wasn't going to starve. But at the end of the day, that's the kind of thing that hunters, 200 years ago, they would have, had they been able to shoot more than once, they would have taken whatever they could have gotten. Like if that animal, if all that presented itself was a running shot, and they were going to starve, that was the difference between eating and not eating. They were going to take a running shot, and they weren't going to worry where it hit. It was going to leave a blood trail, and they could reload and go for round 2. So from a hunting standpoint, I don't. Livestock is different though. I absolutely make sure that I'm trying my best to make a peaceful and stress-free death.
That's kind of what I was thinking when you were mentioning about the one-shot kill is only like recent Americana, like as far as like hunting ethics, because like of what you just said, they're gonna starve if they don't get this, and so they're gonna take what they can get, even if it's a dirty shot. And then as far as like processing animals, with it being totally different, that makes sense. Like when I did my 25 meepers last year, I think like normies would ask me like, "Oh, did you cut the head off and let the chicken run around without a head on?" And I said, I thought about it, but I didn't. Like honestly, I've never seen that before, and so like I'm kind of curious what that looks like, but I couldn't like. It wasn't worth it to me to just lop a chicken's head off just to see it run around like that. I think I'd be sad. I think that would make me sad more than like then to satisfy that curiosity. You know what I mean? Like just like I'll just leave it in the killing cone. It's fine there. Like it thrashes around for a second and then it's over, and then then the real work starts. So
I've done chickens a bunch of different ways. Prior to even really knowing about a kill cone, it was the axe or a machete and a block.
Sure.
They do thrash around occasionally. They do run around. It doesn't really change what happened. The chicken's dead. It just doesn't know it yet. So I think from doing it solely to satisfy your curiosity, I get that that's a little morbid. But doing it because that's a way to kill the animal, I don't think it changes anything. The chicken's dead.
Like if you don't
way.
have a killing cone. Yeah,
I mean it didn't. It's dead. It doesn't. Whether it dies in upside down in a killing cone or dies with its head lopped off, the end effect for it, it's dead, and it's quick either way. So
yeah,
it does make less of a mess in a killing cone though, and they bleed out better.
And all that blood goes right into a trough if you want it to. It's not just sprayed everywhere. And one time when the one time I did do turkeys, we tried we'd like grab them and put them in an old t-shirt to try to to try to keep their wings from like just beating the crap out of themselves, like when you'd take their head off with an axe to like not bruise the meat. And then all that happened was that the turkeys ended up like their wings would still flap like crazy. I mean, they're crazy strong, and like their wings ended up popping out of the t-shirt anyways. And so it was just It was just ridiculous. You got this headless turkey wearing a t-shirt. We tried.
Huh.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, my learning moment.
Yeah, learning moment.
Taking life is never a pretty thing. I mean, if it is pretty and innocuous, I think you have a bigger problem, because then I think that takes away. I mean, you look at those suicide pods, right? That when you take out that element of what it actually takes to kill something, to end something's life, that's when you have a problem, because you don't see. I mean, you don't see the lifeblood coming out. You don't see the death throes, the struggle, and yeah, I just think that it's important to. I mean, the kids are out there slaughtering stuff with us too. We prefer to use a knife to allow the animal's heart to pump the blood out, but you make sure it's a nice sharp knife. But yeah, I don't like it being, a little gassing or whatever. I think that's the kind of stuff you want to avoid. But yeah, you keep it as calm as you can for the animal. Mess, I'm not so worried about. I live in the woods. Let the blood go everywhere and water the ground.
It's good fertilizer.
Right.
I did talk to a guy recently who raised rabbits and I think chicks for pet food, and so things like snakes and dogs, I guess, they would rather have the animal whole, because if it's like headless, like it's like I don't know, they just have like this weird thing. And so he said that he would get like CO2 or something like that and create like these little gas chambers for his rabbits. And I'm like, that is so messed up. He's like, yeah, it was, but that was the market I was in. Like,
right.
it's just sound. I've never heard anything like that before. It's so weird.
Yeah, if you think about it from your perspective, how would you rather go? Would you rather, have somebody cut your throat and be looking at your blood spraying everywhere? I asked somebody who's had their throat cut before. Sorry. Anyway, I'd
We
rather,
might need
I'd
to
rather,
circle back to that.
yeah, I'd rather be gassed. But at the same time, with an animal, we're making it for food. But yeah, for animals, the food is going to be different. I did the same thing when I raised quail. I think probably at least 50% of my market was for pet food, and primarily for food for raptors, for falconers.
Sure.
And anytime I had an order for that, I'd go catch the birds. I'd smack them on the back of the head with a pair of pliers, and that was that. And in the bucket they'd go. But if I was preparing for humans, for our consumption, it'd be different. You cut the head off, let the blood get out, and it's such a small animal that just removing the head completely, the blood will still get out just fine. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, whether pliers to the back of the head or just cutting the head off with a knife, that's still a lot quicker than a snake or a cat or a hawk is going to do for that animal. And so at that point, you just really have to ask, like, what is ethics when it comes to killing? I think that as long as you're not being sadistic in it, and you're working towards making it, I guess, an efficient kill. I don't know. I'm not an animal. I can't think like an animal.
Yeah, I mean, I saw when I watch my dog kill coons a fair amount, and it takes him a while, and it's never pleasant and it's never fun. It's not fun for the dog, although he seems to get some enjoyment out of it later. But it's certainly not fun for the coon, right? I mean, that coon's getting torn to shreds. So I think when the ethics kind of goes out the window there. But I think going back to what you were talking about with the disconnect, you want to have your, I think experiencing that, it puts the ownership of the ethics on the person as opposed to just slapping something broadly on the whole. Whether it's livestock or hunting. It's what the person's willing to handle when it comes to how they put an animal down. And I think the whole reason why we even have a question about it is because there's a disconnect. Most people don't experience, they don't see the animal. They don't know what that animal went through or any of those things.
The closest they come is having their dog or cat dying.
Yeah, but I mean they don't put an animal down. They don't
No.
they don't experience those things, and so they don't know what's humane or humane or ethical or not. They just hear about it. But for me, like I've had to finish deer off that I shot. I've had to finish roadkill deer off, and I always try and do it as quickly as possible because I'm not comfortable with it suffering if I don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't. That's me. That's my. I don't know that there's like some universal ethical thing. If I'm going to eat the animal, that's it for me. At the end of the day, I'm going to do the best I can, but it is what it is. So, but I think it all comes back from that disconnect that that people don't know. They don't know personally what it's like to take an animal's life, and so they don't know. They don't know what's good, what's a good thing for the animal, or what's a good thing, what's a good goal to strive for anymore.
Right. Let's go through unexpected livestock loss. Like, so how does that feel? Because I had one recently. I had a chicken just unexpectedly die. Didn't like nothing happened to it. Like it wasn't attacked. I went and locked up. We can talk about this a little bit later too. Like, free range versus like keeping your animals secure in like a coop or whatever. I'm like, 16. What the heck? Where's the other one? And so I like looked around. There was like only one other place it could have been, and that's where. What the heck is going on here? We got 2 Calebs. There we go. That was weird.
Yeah, that was weird. I'll be right back.
Okay. And so it had just like when I finally found it, I could still kind of move its feet, could kind of move its wing. So like the chicken hadn't been dead for long, that if it's still slightly movable, but like I was just like racking my brain. I'm like, what could have possibly happened to this thing? Because it's maybe 2 years old. It's like give or take a couple months. Like it's not that old for a chicken. And so you're just like, now what do I have to do to make sure that the other ones make it? Like what happened to this one that could possibly happen to all these others? Like then you kind of feel like a failure as a, I guess, whatever they, like a chicken farmer, I guess. I don't know what you call it. A homesteader, a real homesteader, Josiah.
That's right.
So I don't know those types of things, like the losses. Like you could have 100 successes, right? Like, oh, they made them all 100 made it to the freezer, but then this one, like it really like sticks with you, like having chicks die early, and sometimes that stuff's completely out of control, predators, but sometimes that's preventable. So
No, I mean we had a doeling. I forgot to turn on the electric netting, and she stuck her head through it and panicked and strangled herself. And you do again. It comes back to from a from an ethical standpoint. She's doeling. She's worth a lot more to me than a buck. I would not have beat myself up as much had it been a buck. Take that for what it will, but that doeling would have given me a buck, and they're worth 2-3 times more cash wise. But it really sucks because I was unable to take care of the animal in a way that that let it fulfill the whole reason I owned it. So that's not that's not an experience that you want. And we've had chickens drop over, and we've had raccoon incursions in the chicken house, and some of that was failure on my part. Maybe not the house wasn't quite tight enough, or with the doeling, the electric fence wasn't on, so it didn't shock her. But it's never a good thing, and from that standpoint, it's a failure on my part to care for the animal in a way that Guy Alaska was talking. When you raise the animal, their care and feeding is on you, and so any death that you could have prevented, it does weigh. It does weigh on me. My failure to press a button on the fence charger killed an animal. So that's never a good thing. At the end of the day, it's an animal. I didn't kill anybody. So it's not gonna weigh on my conscience forever. But I make sure that fence is turned on every morning. So you know that's not great, but it is what it is.
What about you, Guy? Unexpected losses?
Oh yeah, plenty of. I mean, even since getting up here, we've had this winter was especially tough. I think when we first got up here, I was so busy trying to build a house and everything that our dogs, one we bought to be a stud was his sire was from Turkmenistan, and his dam was from what I would consider to be our country's top breeder of the breed, and we were hoping. And every day, my son told me that he's not eating today, and so I went down and looked at him. He was skeletal, and and so I had to take him out that day down, and that was rough. That was, pardon the pun, rough dogs. Anyway,
Hey, Guy, your audio is pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
it was a great
choppy.
dog. Yeah, I don't know. Booster's still running. I'll just truck on, I guess. But anyway, he was a great dog. Came from great stock, and he got a big case of whipworm, and I'd relied on my son to take care of the dogs, and instead of making sure that I was just doing my rounds and checking them daily. And at the end of the day, he's an 11-year-old. You can't fully rely on them. They still, you can explain to them why animals need to be looked over day after day, they're blue in the face, but they're just not going to understand. And that was a tough one. And I think we lost two does over the winter. We bought 4 goats, 3 does and 1 buck, knowing that we didn't really have an adequate way to feed them, but they're so hard to get out here that it was still worth the chance. And we had 2 does, I think, start this winter. We were out there day after day trying to bring them out, but all we had to hold to feed them. Until we had money to buy some hay. But we're in good shape now. They're all we picked up some more from a friend on a neighboring island, and all our goats day after day, berries and fern, fiddleheads, and all kinds of stuff. So berry bushes, I should say. Berries aren't found yet, but yeah, stuck lost. And dogs, I can.
Hey, Guy, could you try turning off your video? Maybe that'll help with the audio issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's try that.
Can you hear now?
Maybe. Yep, that's pretty clear, actually.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was saying, I consider dogs livestock too, because even though they're, we have relationships with all our animals, including our goats. I'll pet them, call them by name, go love on them, and then the next day eat them if that's it's time for it. So,
right? Yeah, like people have like relationships with their pigs that they'll call them, they're like pigs are like dogs, like what I've heard. Come up to you, want pets and scratches, and then go to freezer camp someday. Like that's just how it goes with pigs. And probably other animals too. Depends on the breed, species, all that stuff. So in terms of ethics, there's a lot of people that I will only free range our animals. My chickens free range, my sheep whatever, name the animal, only free range. I could probably do that here. There's lots of predators. Like a couple months ago, I saw a fox for the first time. I know we got raccoons around here, birds of prey, like quarter mile to an eagle's nest from my house. I mean, take your pick. Mountain lions come around here, coyotes. I mean, that's probably just like, nothing compared to the predators that you got, Guy. But I keep my chickens in like a double, like I call it like a double locked, like a double locked coop. Like I've got a layer of fencing, and then I have chicken wire on top of that, stapled on the inside of the coop, just to make sure nothing's getting in. Hardware cloth buried a foot under, like in the perimeter, so like nothing tries to bury under the coop, just to make sure that they're safe and that I'm not going to have those losses. And when I do let them out of the coop, they're just in a chicken run. There's lots to scratch and peck at. Like I could probably do chicken tractors, but then that's just more work of moving them. So maybe someday I'd switch it up and do chicken tractors instead of a coop. But I don't know. I built the coop. It's here. It works.
I had bad luck with the chicken tractor, so I'm not a huge fan of them, at least in my use case.
How so?
I had a raccoon dig under it in one night, and kill most of the meat birds. So not something I'm interested in doing. It may be a different story. So that was at my parents' house. They didn't have a dog at the time, so maybe that would be a different, some more deterrence of some kind. But yeah, I wasn't a fan, and we didn't. I didn't really free range until recently, so there's that whole acceptable losses. We just lost our first bird. I don't actually know what happened. Free ranging. I don't know what happened to her. So I don't keep strict count of the birds. So it was more, I just stumbled upon what remained of the carcass. I think for me at the end of the day, it's about the animals fulfilling their purpose for me. So in the case of the chickens, they're laying eggs, and if the predator pressure was high enough that I wasn't getting the eggs that I needed because I was losing birds due to free ranging, I wouldn't free range anymore. Whether from an ethical standpoint, they have a better life. They absolutely have a better life free ranging. They can eat whatever the heck they want. They look better. Although admittedly their run was pretty borderline on having enough space. It was a big run though. I mean, we just had a lot of birds. I think they do better. Feed cost is way down. I don't feed them near as much. So all those things are big deals for me. But at the end of the day, if they're not laying the eggs that I need them to lay, then they're not doing what I have them for. In which case, I'm gonna go back to putting them in a pen, and thus far that hasn't happened, and that's a good thing. They're a lot cheaper, which is another big one for me. But the pigs, when we ran pigs, I didn't have a huge area for them. We had two little doelings, but they were the first real big livestock foray for us, and we didn't have a big area. And in hindsight, I wish I'd probably had a little bit bigger of an area for them. But at the same time, they fulfilled the purpose that we bought them for, which was to fill the freezer. They got to live as a pig. They weren't on concrete or anything like that. It wasn't not a concentrated animal feeding operation or whatever. But from a they're not pastured pig. They weren't raised to some of the standards that some folks have. But they fulfilled my standard, which was feed my family, which is the most important thing from an ethical standpoint for me. So,
yeah, You just give them the best life that you can,
Yeah.
you know, safely. Uh, give them proper nutrition. I know a lot of people don't give a crap what they feed their chickens, but like if you're eating those eggs and or eating that chicken that's going in your body, that's kind of messed up. But and also if you're feeding your animals junk, how ethical is that? A lot of people. I talked to a farmer last year who he's like, honestly, I don't know if it really matters what you feed a pig. You could feed a pig garbage, and I think the meat would taste the same. It's really all about the happiness of the animal. And I was like, I don't know if I believe that. I mean, that sounds insane.
I wish Guy was on here still because he might have some insight into that. But I I've never eaten to compare, but from what I understand, if you've got a black bear eating trash or rotting fish or whatever, and versus a bear eating berries, there's a distinct taste difference.
Oh,
Like I
sure.
said, I have no personal experience with that. The only bear I've eaten was eating donuts out of a barrel apparently every day. They baited him in. So, anyways, I would question that. I think I would want a diet for the pig similar to my own. I'm not above drinking some
Prime
Mountain
rib.
Dew and eating some crap from time to time, but
Sure.
if if that's all they're eating, yeah, I would question the health of the pig.
Oh
I'd
yeah. How would you
question,
not? That's insane that
yeah,
you would
well,
like.
and the nutrition value in the pig. But I touched on it last week when Long Story was on with regards to what I fed the pigs once a week. They got the leftovers from this these company kitchen expired food. It wasn't
Mhm.
great. It wasn't great for them. I can't imagine that 40 chocolate muffins was spectacular for them. But it was once a week.
It's a treat.
Yeah, so I mean, there's balance there, but again, from an ethics standpoint, it was a way to cut my feed costs and fulfill their purpose for me, which was feeding me, and the bacon didn't taste like chocolate, so it must not have been enough chocolate
Dang.
chocolate muffins, right? But again, I mean, from a we took care of those pigs, and we fed them reasonable food, and we ate them, and that's what we had them for. So I think you can get wrapped up in it, and I think better to trend on the side of taking good care of the animal. I mean, I anything's better than a CAFO, I think, in my book. Like if I can give them a better life than that, then I'm doing better. Like there's what I have under my control, and if I can do pigs in a better way than that, if I can do chickens in a better way than that, I'm doing pretty good. I'll continue to level up, but I'm not going to let this ideal way out there in the sky stop me from raising pigs or raising chickens, whatever way is efficient for me and effective.
Right. Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
I mean, like them eating. If your baseline is grocery store meat, if you can be 1% better than that, like okay, like that is better, I guess, than grocery store meat, and just improve more as you go, like refine your methods and quality of life for your animal. If I mean, which should matter to you. Um, I think if you're raising animals, I mean, if you have no connection to the life on your property, then what are you doing?
I mean, I think quality of life is a big deal, and I think again you can bring it back to just practical. If the animals are being raised on good food and they're healthier, then they're going to taste better, and whether regardless of which end you're going for, at the end of the day, the animal's life is better. Whether you're doing it because you want the animal's life to be this great, you know, you want that pig to just grow up on grass and eat the good stuff, to live a good life, or you're doing it because they taste better. the end of the day, the pig still got a better life than he would have, and for
Oh,
me, that's my
definitely.
thing. I approach it a little differently, a little more pragmatically, I think, than some folks. But at the end of the day, for me, if the meat tastes good and I'm doing my best to give them a good life, then I'll get there. I'll get there eventually.
I talked to a lady a couple of weeks ago who had a pig as a homesteader, just one, and she like sang it to sleep. Like I'm not even kidding. Well, I don't even remember the song that she told me that she sang her pig Blue. Uh, her pig named Blue. She sang it. She sang it to sleep every night. And man, that's like. And when they moved properties, they weren't going to take the pig with them. She gave it to a sanctuary for it to live out the rest of its days. When like some homesteading friends of theirs we're like, oh yeah, we'll take it and we'll process it. She's like, no, I'm gonna give it to a sanctuary. Now, if between I'm not even saying anything's wrong with that. That's her pig. She can do whatever she
Right.
wants with it. I don't really
Yeah.
give a crap. So somewhere between store bought meat and that is where I want to be.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sing my chickens to sleep. If I ever do get pigs, I'm not going to sing them to sleep. Like something so small, like a couple, I want to say probably 2 months ago, one of my chickens had their toenail like ripped off, like it was just bleeding all over the place, and I saw other chickens like pecking at it, and so I jumped online, asked people like, what can I do for it, blah blah blah. Like, if you care that your chicken's toenail ripped off, like, I think you got the right frame of mind, I guess, like in care, like, will this get infected? Are they gonna die? I don't really like I'm not gonna hand feed a chicken, but I don't want it to suffer from an infection. So do I take it out now? Do I wait and see? That type of thing.
I think it's a good point with regards to scale too. I mean, if you had 1,000 birds, one of them wouldn't matter. Um, so I think
Probably
that's a
not.
good point towards scale. I mean, I guess it wouldn't matter. It would matter a lot less when it comes to if you have 17 birds or 16 birds or whatever it was that you said there, that's a big percentage. And I mean, I like the math changed even for us, going from, we had two goats, and man, we babied those goats. And now we have 15 does. And the math has changed a little bit. We sold a doeling a couple weeks ago. We had um expendable animals, or expendable does for the first time. And so it's kind of a weird moment when you get to that point where it I mean, obviously you're going to care, but there's that difference. But I think when it comes to the scale thing, I think caring, I think not having so much, and having that connection so that you still care about the livelihood of the animal, that's a good thing. When you see those videos, the secretly recorded, hidden camera videos of the concentrated animal feeding operations.
Yeah.
Where they're just chucking the animals out the door. There's no connection anymore. They don't care. It doesn't change the bottom line for them. I think you're right. I think somewhere between, singing the animal to sleep and that experience and having a connection, while still letting the animal, getting the animal to fulfill why you have it. That's a big deal. Somewhere between there. It's so different, for me than the dogs. I love my dogs, but at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
it's a dog. I don't sing my dogs to sleep. I have a dog that I love. Best dog in the world kind of a thing. I don't sing him to sleep. He's a dog. He does what dogs are supposed to do for me. He provides security, kills coons. He lives a good life, but he's a dog. So there's somewhere in between, like you said, that pig and the CAFO. There's a good place for livestock and for animals, I think, in
Yeah.
general.
There was something I thought about, and then we'll go through a couple of Dylan's notes really quick. Do you know Steven Ranella of Meat Eater and the Meat Eater
Yeah.
show and podcast and all that? I was watching a talk with him, and this guy showed up to like one of like his talks at like a bookstore or whatever, and he's like, "You," the guy was like, "You disrespected animals. You know, you have no idea about deer or elk or whatever." And Stephen Ranella's point is like, through hunting and studying these animals since I was like 10 years old, I know way more about them than you ever will, just because I've studied their patterns, their habits, what they eat, um, just their entire life, like their life cycle. I've I'm that through hunting, I can, like, I have that knowledge about them, and through knowledge and understanding probably comes like compassion and uh like some level of empathy. It's kind of like how traveling, oh man, like traveling helps you understand other cultures type of thing, where you can't be that much of like a racist or a bigot if you go travel the world, right? I mean, experiencing all these other cultures and stuff. I mean, it's like yeah, just that, like, when I saw that clip of Steven Ranella, I was like, that's a really good point. You know, these vegans are like, or you know, PETA people, whatever. You know, they're so quick to just call us just like barbarians or whatever, that, you know, we just like killing animals because it's fun. Like, it's really not that fun. Um, but it, you know, we give it a good life, and it's just, it doesn't even have a bad day. It has a bad couple of minutes, and then
Yeah.
it's over. We're like, these animals aren't living long enough to get cancer and die slowly.
Yeah, I mean, we do give them a better life in that regard for sure, and I think, you know, I love that clip of Stephen Ranella. Actually, I showed a coworker that I had a discussion about veganism with. I love that clip. It's a good one, but you know, I think for me, you know, with deer hunting is a good example here. I care about the habitat that I have, and I care about the deer numbers, and I want the deer herd to be healthy because I want to continue to hunt, and I want my kids to be able to hunt, and so I care. So I don't kill deer indiscriminately, and I care about the population, and I don't kill deer if they've had a rough year or if I'm not seeing a lot. And it's no different than these goats. These goats provide me a purpose and a reason, and so I'm going to take as good of care of them as I can, because they are important to me, and they're not just important to me because it's a goat. They're important to me because it's how my kids get milk, and that's something that, you know, like in that clip with Stephen Ranella, they're people that, when the animal doesn't have a purpose for them, when the animal doesn't have a reason for being, it matters less to the person. They don't understand the animal as well, or the efforts that we do to take good care of them, and to you know, to give them a good life, because I have a vested interest in the animal's livelihood that they don't have.
And then think about the deer itself. Like, that deer gets to be a deer. Like, it doesn't have, like, it's not contained in any way. Like, it jumps fences all the time. Just gets free range, and then one day, um, you know, its life ends and ends up.
Yeah.
But if you think about, what if we treated all other animals like that, all domestic animals? That would be crazy. That would actually be kind of cool if we, like, instead of like let's bring back these big elk herds. Like, if you look at like a map of like everywhere where there used to be elk, it was, you know, southern Canada all the way down to like Florida, right? It was just throughout the entire throughout the entire United States had elk on it, like, and bison, and like all these other things. You know, what if we just, you know, had goats and stuff just running around? But like, the way we, like, society lives, that's not practical. You, like, which is a whole different discussion.
Maybe a topic for next week there.
Maybe. Like, what if we just let all the animals free range? That would be crazy. Our society would look a lot different that way. But I mean, that would be kind of cool to just like have these massive populations, healthy populations. But like people don't even like when deer are in their yard because they like eats their tulips, so they're gonna freak out when like 200 head of elk come passing through their property and like just start smashing up their car, or like there's a bison just beating up their garage door or something like that. They're not going to be happy about that, but that's what wild animals look like. So,
well, it's a disconnect from animals, from being around animals. I think more than anything, we've had the neighbors' cows get loose and they've run through the yard before. That's normal. That's normal here. It's a rural area, but that there's that disconnect where animals, they don't understand. Same thing with farming down closer to my parents. It's a lot more of the 10-acre rural estate crap. People just mowing their big old lawns. But there's still some big farms interspersed in there, and like the people are ridiculously rude to the farmers driving their tractors on the road. There's that again. There's that big disconnect between food and how it gets raised.
mm-hmm.
People don't have anymore, and so I think you're right. I think people would lose their minds if those big herds of elk or a bison herd rolled through. They might get some poop on their lawn or something. God forbid.
Oh no.
So
Yeah. Have like wild cattle come make a comeback, and like these just giant herds are just covering the streets in just manure and whatnot. So yeah, the idea is funny to me, and to be kind of like it'd just be kind of crazy that we would need such a massive shift to allow nature to kind of reclaim what's theirs. But yeah, Dylan's notes. Everyone, he's got a couple of things here that it kind of would help if he were here to explain what he means by this.
Yeah, what a slacker.
I know. It's gone 2 days. There are 2 weeks in a row. Someone's like anonymous Kiwi. I don't even know what that means. Everyone should either raise or know someone that raises meat. My dad told me this years ago that meat would be scarce in 50 years. I guess tying it into like ethics and principles, you can like, I think now more than ever, you can get picky with where you get your meat from. Like, I don't like how they raise their animals, so I'm gonna try this other place and I'm gonna grill them on questions like, how do you like? I did that with my raw milk producer last week. I was like, hey, so what's your process here? Like, blah 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 blah, because like formula shortage, there's ways to make raw milk into safe baby formula, that type of thing. And so I was kind of like asking for future reference, like, if I need to make baby formula, is this a good source to have, or do I need to look harder?
No, I mean his notes are good. I don't from a consumption standpoint, I don't necessarily know that knowing the person that you buy it from, but I think having that connection, I think whether it be that you've killed an animal for yourself, so you have a better understanding of what it takes to produce the meat that you're eating. But I will say, I mean, I think we've talked before with the supply chain issues. I think it would behoove everybody to have a little bit closer connection with some of their food, just from a standpoint of being able to get it at some point. I don't know about meat scarcity, but from a long-term perspective. But I mean, we saw meat scarcity from a short-term perspective, so it did happen. And there were people that couldn't buy eggs, but they bought eggs from us because they knew us. So there is a lot of good reasons to have that connection and to know, people, people don't care about food. I just talked about that, but people don't care about food anymore. It's easy to get. It's always in the grocery store, so they don't put the thought into where it comes from or how it died or how it was raised, and it probably needs to be something that more people are aware of and thinking about.
Yeah. Maybe next week we could talk about, is meat actually under attack? Like meat producers under attack. The Impossible Burger, Beyond Burger, trying to get you to eat soy-based trash. Could be a good topic for, like, is there
Yeah, it'd
a
be something to talk about.
conspiracy? Like, I'm gonna try not to make this my conspiracy podcast 2.0. I'm not gonna go there. But anyways, but yeah, you got anything else you want to wrap up on?
I got nothing, man.
Sweet. So, who are you? Again, where can people find you and see your carefully curated tweets that are gold in every?
Oh, I'm not sure about any of that, but
post, yes.
Josiah Young, Inventive15 on Twitter. That's where you can find my apparently gold tweets. So
you post some good stuff. Yeah, you had some pictures of your kids recently, so helping out.
That's right, helping inflate that pool. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am Derosier of Farm Hop Life. You can find me almost everywhere. You can start at farmhoplife.com. And we'll figure out a topic for next week. So appreciate everyone listening. See you later.